Assalamu alaikum sabko. It is my pleasure to welcome our viewers to our discussion about the Center for Excellence in Journalism based here in Karachi, Pakistan. My name is Krish and I am the spokesperson for the US Consulate General here in Karachi, Pakistan. This recorded Facebook discussion is part of a series we are planning aimed at providing you with up-to-date information about current topics in a number of diverse areas. Today, we will discuss what the Center for Excellence in Journalism is all about. Joining me in this chat is a person I personally respect and admire greatly, Mr. Kamal Siddiqui. Kamal Saab, thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
Kamal Saab is the director of the Center for Excellence in Journalism at the Institute of Business Administration, also called the IBA, Karachi. And the center was set up in 2014 with funding from the US Department of State. There were three partners for the CEJ, and they were the IBA, the Middle School of Journalism at Northwestern University in Chicago, and the International Center for Journalists, that's the ICFJ, based out of Washington, D.C. In the United States. Since 2014, the CEJ has focused on building a state-of-the-art journalism training facility where close to 700 journalists, most of them out of Karachi, have been trained in various areas of journalism. One of the most popular courses offered by CEJ is backpack journalism, where journalists are taught to make video clips of news quality from their cell phones. Since 2016, the CEJ has also worked with other media houses to host and hold training and courses. And in 2017, the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, that's the HEC, approved the CEJ's proposal to start a Master of Science program, that's the MS program in journalism, which will commence this year, actually in January, I believe. The CEJ is also considered the premier training institute and is poised to be a regional center for excellence in journalism. Mr. Kamal Siddiqui has more than 25 years of experience in journalism. His most recent position was editor of the Express Tribune, which is a partner publication of the New York Times in Pakistan. Kamal Saab, thank you so much for being here again with us. And let me start off by saying, as they say in Urdu, hum aapka istiqbal karte hain.
Thank you very much. Shukriya.
Kamal Saab, let me go directly into I had a few questions. Now let's go to the basics. What is the CEJ all about? How did it come into being? What was the thinking behind its creation?
I think the thinking behind its creation was the fact that between 1999-2000, Pakistan's media industry witnessed an explosion in terms of its growth. Private TV channels came into being already. What we saw was that a number of newspapers were also expanding. So there was a great demand for journalists. And it was so great that the ratios are 1 to 10 as in terms of the number of people that came into the industry.
I see.
So keeping that in mind, what we saw was that a lot of untrained, a lot of people who did not have the requisite background or understanding of the profession had entered the field. And as a consequence, what we saw was that standards were falling. The biggest challenge, of course, was ethics. I mean, even today, a number of people will agree with me that there are lots of unethical practices taking place in our media. And that has a lot to do with training. So the thinking behind CEJ was that prior to establishing the CEJ, the US government would take Pakistani journalists to newsrooms in America, to news and media centers, or to journalism schools in America. But at some point, it was, I think, understood or decided that something should be established in Pakistan which has a more prominent position in terms of the fact that we would be able to train more people and also it will be more long term, it will be more beneficial for the media to have something here. So this, I understand, was the thinking behind the establishment of the CEJ.
I see. Now, talking about, just going back to my intro that I wanted to ask you, what exactly is this backpack journalism? Is it like someone carrying a backpack and walking through the woods? I mean, what exactly?
Something like that.
It's a very interesting concept.
The concept is that what's happening is that with technology, what we are seeing is that there was a time that to cover an event for television, you would have to have a van and a big camera and a person who would hold. I remember in my time when I was a reporter, I remember there was a man who would be holding a camera and there was another man who would be holding a light.
I see.
And his job was just to hold the light like this while the camera was rolling. And I thought, what a boring job he had. But having said that, I think technology has come to the point that you can actually film clips using your iPhone or your smartphone, which are good enough to be aired on television as part of a news package. With that, what happens is not only do costs go down, but if you are able to do this, you can enter into areas where a big camera cannot go. For example, 2 years back there was a fire in a hotel. So those journalists who had training in backpack journalism, who could use their cameras, were able to get footage, while those who had the bigger cameras or they could not enter the building. So this is how journalism is changing the world over, and we're having it's more versatile to have a camera in a phone and then take pictures through that.
So the days of those big, equipment, lugging it around is pretty much obsolete now.
Those days are over now.
And
yes.
And so technically, I mean, a journalist is also a director, a producer, and a cameraman,
yes,
all in one package, correct?
I think this is where convergence comes in, that the expectations now of a journalist are much more. Like, it's not just that you write copy and you go home. You have to be able to take like video footage, you're able to take audio clips. For example, if you are working in an organization in Pakistan, more and more the expectation is that you will be able to not only write for the paper, but because these media organizations now have radio channels and TV channels, that you're also able to give information and footage to the TV as well as online. So we in CEJ are very aware of this, and the trainings that we do are focused on making the journalist more of an all-rounder.
I see. So you have a sort of you offer trainings in all these different areas, sort of using a holistic approach.
Yes, and I think people, like, we've gotten media houses are very interested in the trainings that we offer, because they feel that this is the future and this is something that no other organization offers in Pakistan. Journalists themselves, I've seen and met a number of journalists who are not sponsored by their organizations, but they see the worth of our training and they actually pay for their courses themselves, because they know this is where this is the way to advance in the profession now.
I see.
So that's the level of interest in the trainings that we offer.
That CEJ is offering. Kamal sir, over the past 3 years, how many journalists have been trained, and who are these journalists, and where are they now?
So what we did when we started CEJ is that initially we started the training of journalists, working journalists. The idea was to improve standards within the profession. So what we invited through social media, we would invite we would offer a 2-week course on a monthly basis. And this was funded by the US Department of State. And we would invite entries from all over, applications from all over Pakistan. Interestingly, despite the fact that CEJ is based in Karachi, most of those who we have trained are from KP.
Okay.
To
and
begin
that's
with.
Khyber
Pakhtunkhwa. So the first impression is that because it's based in Karachi, journalists from other places do not get this benefit is not true. What we are seeing is that a number of, and as CEJ over the years, the interest has grown in different parts. We have had people coming from as far as Gilgit-Baltistan for our trainings. So first of all, it is journalists in the field who get the training. And we've been very mindful on a number of fronts. For example, we would like to train people from different platforms. So we train people from not just from the TV, but also from print and also online and radio. So we like to get in journalists who are from different backgrounds or who are in different areas of the profession. The second thing is that we are very mindful of language because more than 90, like for example in television today, almost all television is in Urdu.
Okay.
So we make sure that our trainings are done both in English and Urdu. Even if we have a foreign instructor, there always a Pakistani instructor to train or to help explain. And also when the participants give their submissions, they can be in any language that they're comfortable in. The third thing that we are very mindful is urban-rural. We try to bring in people from the rural areas as more as possible because we feel that that is where the training is required more than in urban areas. So more people have come to us from rural areas than they have from urban areas. Then of course is gender. Over the years we have built up the courses in such a way that the number of women has increased. So these are the different ways we can define how CEJ looks at the people that they train. And also, where are they now? Most of them, like 99%, are back in the profession and they're part of our alumni. And we're happy to report that a number of them recommend CEJ to their colleagues to come and do trainings. And a number of them sometimes want to come back for another training. And we do keep in touch and we have very lively discussions on our different platforms about what they do.
And talking about training, you have, you do training in short courses as well as longer courses, and apart from the MS program that you're planning to start, correct?
What we've, over the past year and a half, the corporate sector and the development sector has come to CEJ with their own requirements.
And you also have international organizations.
We have international organizations.
Like the UN has sort of.
Yes, the UN has come to us for a training for documentary makers from Pakistan and Afghanistan. So when you mentioned regional center, we're already trained journalists from Sri Lanka and from Afghanistan. Other than that, international organizations, development sector organizations come to us for their own requirements. They say that we want, for example, one organization is focusing on health. And they said, we want you to design a course for us on health reporting. One organization that's a leading organization in the corporate sector said, we want you to work with reporters on nutrition reporting. Now, these are very specialized areas.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they said, we want you to come out of Karachi. So CEJ has actually trained out of Karachi as well, in different parts of.
So your faculty travels.
Our faculty travels
to different parts of the
country. Yes, very recently
that's
our faculty.
Fascinating.
Yeah, one of our faculty members went through Balochistan.
I see.
And we have a network because we have very good relations with press clubs all over Pakistan. Okay. So they host us.
Okay.
We ask them what their requirements are, and based on that, they tell us that this is what we want training in, and then we go and
do you
train.
host it at the press clubs, or do you also host it at the universities?
We host it in universities, we host them in press clubs, wherever we feel our hosts are comfortable and where we feel we can go in and train, we do that.
That's pretty unique.
It is, because we enjoy very good relations not just with press clubs and universities, but also with journalist unions.
I see.
So just like the Karachi Union of Journalists or the Pakistan Federal Union of Journalists, they have come to us not only for trainings, but they have used our expertise to do their own trainings.
Okay.
So CEJ has hosted their trainings as well.
Okay.
So it's, I'm happy to say that we've been able to reach those areas or those quarters where we feel we can help the most.
Okay. Now, I have had the pleasure and opportunity to come and visit your center. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
You also have started recently a radio studio.
We have, yes.
Can you tell us, our viewers, a little bit about the radio studio?
Well, the radio studio is part of every educational institution can open up a radio studio for educational purposes. So we at IBA at CEJ is part of IBA, so we are opening up an IBA radio studio. The idea is because we're going to have students who are going to come in and do journalism, what better way to do it than to have a radio studio to report through. And because it's going to be non-commercial, a lot of the work that we plan to do is we are going to get our students to make packages, audio packages, that will be connected to things that they want to report on and that can be aired without, so we don't have to, it's a very cheap way and a very effective way to get across good journalism.
Right.
So that's what we plan to do with our radio
And it's
studio.
going to be student-driven, correct?
It is going to be student-driven. It's going to be, we are going to, in all the trainings that we do and even with the programs that we have in the future, our idea is to guide and then let the students or let the participants then take the lead. And we have seen it happen several times that it's the students or the participants in courses that have actually delivered. We just put them in the direction.
So you're like more like a facilitator.
We are more
I
like a
think
facilitator.
that's really fantastic. Talking about that, my next question leads me to my next question, Kamal Saab. What are the areas where journalists in Pakistan? I think you mentioned this a little bit, but if you can go a little deeper into this, areas where journalists in Pakistan need the help most.
I think in many ways journalism in Pakistan suffers from a number of issues. First of all is the standard or the quality of work, in the sense that journalists are very poorly paid. And the joke is that when a journalist goes in a van, a TV van, the camera is insured but the journalist is not insured. So this is where we stand in terms of the work conditions. A lot of journalists have not received salaries. They work at a fraction of what they would work if they were working in another profession. So it has a lot to do. We have to accept that a lot of journalists are just passionate about their work. They are working more for their passion and less for their money. Now that's one. The other is
extremely dedicated. I mean.
They're dedicated people. They take risks. Pakistan is one of the most dangerous places to be a journalist. It is on that list where the number of people who have died while working as journalists is very high. So we have to take into mind that these people are dedicated, they're taking risks, and they're doing some very good work. Problems are, first of all, is safety. That while doing very good work, they need training as to what are the risks that they can take and what are the risks that they should not take. Because when we are in classes, we say that a dead journalist cannot tell stories. So the first thing that you have to do is protect yourself. And these are things this is the challenge, safety. That in terms of how do you protect yourself physically, and also how do you protect yourself in terms of your information, in terms of cyberspace, how do you keep your stories safe? So these are trainings that are very much
and that's
needed.
Another
That's
another program by itself.
That's a different program by itself. Then of course comes the issue of ethics. Because of lack of training, a lot of journalists do things that they don't know are wrong.
I see.
So what we see, the best example to give is that if you're standing at traffic lights and you don't know that red means stop. It's one thing that you know red means stop and you just continue to go on. That means you're breaking the law willfully. Here the problem is that they don't know red means stop. So we have to train journalists about the ethics of their work, as to when they can, why they should not take gifts, or why they should not do favors, or what is conflict of interest. And also, like what you see a lot in Pakistan is how stories are sensationalized, this whole breaking news syndrome. So these are things that we work on in terms of training.
And that's one of the wonderful things what I have read from what I've seen. The kind of training that you offer is you use a sort of a systems approach, correct?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. I had another question about your collaboration and working with Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, which is of course one of the premier schools of journalism, worldwide. And your collaboration has been extremely strong. You've had faculty come from there and train students here, and students from here have gone and on programs, and and I think a couple of them are faculty members in your at the CEJ. If you can tell us a little more about that experience.
I think it's been a very good experience. I think, like you said, Medill is one of the best journalism schools in the US, and which means by that it is one of the best journalism schools in the world. Medill faculty has been extremely cooperative with us in the fact that they have come in one by one. We have had a number of faculty members coming in and conducting courses in Pakistan. Okay. In the best of times and in the worst of times. They have come in, they have put themselves, like coming all the way across the world to do these courses. I think it's been and it has again to do with passion and less to do with money. They genuinely want to help Pakistani journalists in terms of their work. We have had 3 of our staff members. We hired 3 journalists who went and did their masters in Medill, and who have now come back and will be part of our MSJ faculty. So it's been a very, in many ways, even today, Medill has helped us with our master's program in designing the program. They have given input. Even today, they're willing to help us in any way in terms of the program itself or training, wherever we ask them. So it's been a it's been a very fulfilling and a very productive cooperation that we've had with Medill.
I see. On a lighter note, did many of the faculty members choose to come here during the winter in Chicago so that they could get away from the cold?
Let's just say that the number of courses that we had in winter were more than we had in summer. But having said that,
that answers my question.
But yes, they've been very supportive.
Now, I'm sure you're really proud about your achievements as far as the growth of the CJ is concerned, and I think you've done a fantastic job. Can you tell us a little more about the master's program? How is it different from other graduate programs in Pakistan?
You know, Krish, the reason it's so different is why it took so long for it to be approved. And this is not just something that is true of Pakistan. This is a worldwide problem, because I've also taught in Australia, and I have some experience in education in America as well. We always have a problem when it comes to teaching journalism, because on the one hand, one school of thought says that to put in a lot of theoretical information that they feel students should learn. The other says that there should be more practical stuff. Because in Pakistan today, like in a lot of countries, when you do a master's in journalism, you are expected to jump into the newsroom and work from day one. That doesn't happen. When you do a master's, first of all, now in Pakistan, there is almost no university that offers a master's in journalism. They offer masters in media sciences, mass communication, media studies. So they have expanded. So journalism per se as a speciality is no more offered in Pakistan in most universities. The other problem is that these students that come out are not fit, or they're not trained to go into a newsroom. The expectation of the industry is that if I hire somebody who's done a master's in mass media, mass communication, that person can immediately get into the job. That doesn't happen. So this is the gap that we wanted to fill. And prior to starting our masters, there was a survey done in which newsrooms were involved. They were asked, what are your requirements? What are your expectations? Based on that, we designed the masters.
And the survey was done across the country?
The survey was done across the country. We have a consultant, with Dr. Larry Pintak, who's an academic. He did the survey on our behalf, and asked.
I understand that he's a former dean at Washington State University.
Indeed. He is. He's he's written books, so he's been part of another journalism school in Egypt as well. So he has the background and he has the knowledge, and he has approached different newsrooms, as well as he did a survey of what was available in Pakistan at that time in terms of training. So he had a pretty good idea. So he helped us design our master's program based on the expectations. But when we took it to the HEC, there was a lot of objections.
That's the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan.
Yes. There was a lot of objection that this does not have enough theoretical courses. It does not lead to a PhD. And we said we didn't want it to lead to a PhD. This was a hands-on. It was like an MBA in journalism.
Which is like a terminal degree.
It is something, it's a work. It is based on the fact that once you do this, you will get a job and you will get. So they finally understood, and we got. So in answer to your question, how is it different? It's different as in it's very hands-on.
Very practical.
It's very practical. And the second way it's different is that it is in terms of what we are teaching is what is being taught right now all over the world in terms of the trends. Like, for example, we're offering a course called data journalism that is not offered in any university right now. We're offering a course in digital journalism, like the whole in terms of social media, introduction to social. This again is not offered yet in Pakistan. So these are areas where journalism is already going, but universities are yet to catch up. So in that sense, our master's degree is different.
And also, I think your faculty members, like yourself, you're going to be teaching. You have experience, vast experience in the field, and as an academic. So it's a combination of the two, correct?
Our faculty, all of them have been journalists, and all of them I encourage them to keep on working in one way or the other, contributing and they are all in touch with newsrooms. Even today, they go into newsrooms when they need, some newsrooms call them for training and all that. So
I see.
they're very much in touch. So that's the idea. At the end of the day, if you do a master's from IBA in journalism, you will be able to get a job the next day.
Okay.
That's the target.
Okay, that's good to know. And so, which leads me to my next question, which is we're talking about the future when we talk about jobs, and so what are the plans for the future of the CEJ? I mean, in terms of growth or
Right.
etc.
I think, Krish, the seed that has been planted by the US, and I mean, of this good, this is the CEJ will grow hopefully into a regional center. It's not just, we're not looking, if you look at the region, you will see, like we had Bangladeshi journalists come in for a visit, and they said we don't have any such facility in Bangladesh. The challenges are great in the region in terms of the media, not just in terms of censorship and freedom, but also in terms of technology. In terms of, like we are in touch with the Press Institute in Sri Lanka, for example. We know that they don't have this kind of facilities available. So we want to not just train Pakistani journalists, but also we want to train journalists from all in this region, South Asia preferably, but also Central Asia. That's one. The
It's
other,
truly international.
make it international, make it a center where people from this part of the world can come, train, and go back and apply their skills. That's one. The other is also to make it a sort of a resource center where, like in terms of how the media is faring in this region, in terms of freedom, in terms of what is happening with terms of the media, we want to do that as well. We want it to be a place to go to for working journalists as well, in terms of what they how they understand the media scene in this area. So these are ideas that we have.
And also, I think you can, I mean, it's an opportunity, as you said, it's a resource center for journalists or students to create these connections, the networks, correct?
Definitely. To create networks, to meet people on the ground. We, because of our alumni, like if we have 700 now, hopefully in a couple of years we'll double that. And these are, we frequently get queries that somebody says, I would like to connect with a health reporter in Peshawar, for example. So we can make those connections.
We can make those connections.
We make
yeah.
those connections and that's what we want to work on as well.
And that itself is a huge
it is a
blessing and
yes,
a resource, correct?
Definitely.
Which leads me to my last question, Kamal Saab. Do you have any, from your experience and what you've been doing with the CEJ, do you have any insights you would like to share for our viewers who may be interested in looking to journalism or at journalism as a career?
I think the one thing you have to understand when it comes to journalism is this is not the profession where initially you will be making a lot of money.
Okay.
So one has to be clear why they're in the profession. At the same time, it is no more a mission. It's not like you struggle for years without any. So it's a sort of a profession where the, let's say the benefits come not just monetarily, but in other ways as well. I mean, if you ask a journalist what is the best thing that happens to him or her, they would say when we see our byline in print, for example. That whole, or that how, if a journalist does a story and they see action being taken, very small things, like for example, you do a story about a hole in a bridge and the next day the government goes and fills it up, that is very satisfying. So the kind of work that you're doing is very different. When we talk about journalism, we say this is a profession where you can meet the poorest man in the city in the morning and the president of the country in the evening.
Right.
So it's a very versatile profession. Yeah. So it is a profession where you are satisfied in ways other than money. You do get money. There is a lot of money. There are people who are making reasonable amount of money in the profession. So it's not that it's poorly paid, but there are lots of other highs that you get. That's one. And the second thing is that journalism is about how you report on what are the best way to describe it is that you give voice to the voiceless. So it is very important for me as a journalist to always look at the downtrodden, the people who cannot get across their point of view, and do stories on that. And there are so many stories to do, Krish. I mean, things like poverty, education, health, water. There's so much, environment, so much we can do to change our society, and we can use journalism to improve things around us. That's how I see the profession, and that is the passion with which I invite people to come into this profession. If you want to change Pakistan, then come into journalism. That's how
And
I
also, and also, let me add to that: the CEJ under your leadership is well poised to train and bring a whole new cadre of journalists to this wonderful land.
I definitely hope so.
And but again, thank you so much, Kamal Saab. We're running out of time. A big thank you to all our online viewers who joined us for this chat. And again, thank you, Kamal Saab, for joining us and sharing information about the Center for Excellence in Journalism, also called the CEJ, and also your wise insights, wisdom about journalism as a whole. To find out more about the CEJ and the Master of Science MS program in journalism, please go to cej.iba.edu.pk. And again, thank you for joining us. Shukriya or Allah Hafiz.